Hey guys, do you know what is object? Today's world is a world of object oriented programming. Everything is available in the form of IT automation. Everything is done by machines, sensors, and nowadays robotics is becoming more and more popular. For that purpose, we need to write a lot of codes, lot of programs, and all those modern programming languages are object oriented. But first, we need to know what is object. In today's session, we are going to talk about object. We have to understand the object. Once you understand the object, then only we can use object oriented paradigms in programming. So let us try to understand the concept of object first. Object is a very simple term. If you see the real world, it is full of objects. In other words, we can say real world is object oriented because whatever we can see, they are objects. Whatever we are using, they are objects. Anything in real world is known as object. Now, how to identify objects or how to separate one object from others? Now, for this purpose, we need to understand the concept of object. Anything in real world which has fixed a set of properties is one type of object. Now, properties are fixed, but the values might be different. Every object in real world has fixed a set of properties with different values. And because of these properties and because of these values, these objects are having their own existence. How to identify type of object? By using fixed properties. And how to identify individual object? By using the values of their properties. Now, at least one property is unique in every object, and that is what the identification of the object. If you see the real world is full of object, but each object is different from other object. Now, why it is different? Because at least one property of that object differs in value, and therefore we can identify separation between objects. Let us try to understand with the help of example. When we see a car on a road, we immediately identify, yes, this is a car. Now, how it is possible? Because of the properties of that vehicle. Every vehicle has properties, and again there are different types of vehicles, and these types are based on the properties. Now, when we are saying it's a car, because we have already trained our brain that what is a car. Every car has a fixed set of properties. It will have a color, it will have a typical car like shape, it will have number of doors, it will have a steering, it will have four wheels. Now, these are different properties, and by using these properties we can say, yes, this vehicle belongs to car. Now, car is concept, and the actual car that we can see on the road is the object. Now, concept is different and object is different. A small kid is learning lot of things by using pictures, images, and we are having separate cartoon like images, pictures to explain that kid how to identify things in real world. Now, the child is seeing the picture of car and trying to understand the concept of car. Now, this is a car, this is a bus, that has been taught to the child, and it gets programmed in the brain. And later on, when that child sees a car on a road, immediately that child identifies that it is a car, it is a bus, because the concept of car, the concept of bus has been programmed in a brain. And that is what the real world. You can see a bus. Now, bus will have a typical shape. Bus will have seats inside it. Bus will have some passengers and number of doors, number of gears. Now, these are additional attributes we can define. But instead of talking about technical terms, in non-technical terms, lot of properties are there. Okay, if you go in a showroom of a car and check the brochure of a car, lot of attributes you can see on a brochure. You can define them as a technical terms, technical attributes. Number of gears, the engine capacity, the speed, maximum speed. Now these are the technical terms. But when you are saying just a car, now car has a some public properties, and those public properties are already known. Some properties are not known. We don't know all properties of a car because some properties are known. If you see a particular car, no, it's a Honda car, and then again you can have a model. But when you are saying just a car, it's different. But when you are saying a particular car, again we have created some additional attributes, additional properties with different values. Okay, type of fuel, whether it is a diesel car, it is a petrol car, or it's an electric car now. On the basis of these technical attributes, again we can differentiate in different objects. So the thing that we have to understand is we have to learn concept first. While learning concepts, we have to find out attributes, properties. How many attributes will define this particular type of object? And then we have to think about the values of that attributes. And this is why we can identify things in real world. Now this is what happening in real world. That is happening with us. Now we will take one more example for better understanding. We are human beings, and every human being is different from others. Yes or no? Now immediately when you see someone, you can say yes, it's a human. Again you can say it's a male or female. But we can remember some people with their names. Now how it happens? When you see any person first time, when you meet any person first time, when you get introduced to that person, what are the attributes you are watching? First, you are watching the public attributes. The face, hairstyle, hair colors, skin color, height. These are some public properties of that human that cannot be hidden. They are always open to all, and that's why they are called as the public properties. At the same time, every human being is having some money. If you're taking a aged person, he will having some money in a pocket or in a purse, and that money is also a property. You are having something in a pocket or a purse, that is a property. How much you are having, that will be the value. If you are having a 10 rupees, if you are having $100, whatever. So value doesn't matter. You are having something. Even if it is a zero, doesn't matter. You are having a pocket which doesn't, and you doesn't have any money, so value will be zero. But you are having a pocket, and the pocket is designed to keep the money. That is the property. Now, how much money you are having, it's known to only that person. It's not known to public unless and until he is opening or he is declaring how much money you have. It will be unknown for outside world. And that person is always trying to protect that money for himself or for his next generation. Generally, we are taking care of our properties, assets. And who is going to use these assets? Your next generation. Whatever money you are going to save in your bank account, or whatever assets you are creating in your entire life, after you are going to give it to the next generation. It's a legacy for your next generation. Now, these properties are known as the protected properties because we are always trying to protect it, and these properties are accessible to your next generation. Okay, outside world cannot access it. So these properties are known as the protected properties. Again, we can have some more properties. For example, every human being is always thinking about something. Even when you are watching this video, you are thinking about something. Every human being thinks something always. It's a tendency of a human being. And what that person is thinking is known to only him or her. It's not known to outside world. You can see that he is thinking, but what he is thinking is unknown. And such properties are known as the private properties. Every person is thinking, but what he is thinking or what she is thinking is known to only that person. And for outside world, it is totally unknown. You can guess, but you cannot give the guarantee. So there are three types of properties, private properties only for that particular object. Protected properties for that object and for its child objects, legacy, and public properties for outside world. And we cannot hide public properties. So on the basis of public, private and protected properties, every object is different from other objects. So we have to understand these type of properties. Now this is about real world. This is about real world. Now when we are planning to develop a software or develop an application, our main purpose is to make your real world, real actions more simple, more effective, or we can use these applications for real world applications, real world actions. Now, if you are developing similar kind of architecture in your application, definitely your software will be more effective, more productive, and therefore object oriented programming approach has to be selected. Now, in real world, you have to watch objects and accordingly, you have to develop objects in your programming. Now, there are some skills that you have to learn. How to identify objects in real world, those are required in your program. So, first, select the objects that you want to be in your application. Then you have to analyze that objects. We have to find out what are the properties, attributes, and you can also differentiate how many public attributes, how many protected attributes, how many private attributes are there, and you have to think about their possible values, and accordingly you have to create variables and you have to create a class. Now what I told you, the concept is different and actual object is different. Now concept is like a class and actual realization is the object. So instance of a class is object. Class is a concept and object is its implementation. So first we have to design classes and class will contain attributes. Now every object in real world has its own functionalities, has its own methods. For example, a human can walk, human can read, human can see something. So these are the functions, those are possible for that object. If you take an example of a car, now car can run on a road, car can stop, car will horn. Now these are the functionalities. So every object is having some actions. Every object is having some task to be done and the object is trained for doing these tasks. So accordingly, we have to develop methods in our class. So we are designing a class for a concept. So let us take an example of car with few attributes. Class name will be car. Now properties will be, it will have number of gears, it will have a number of doors. I am considering only these two. And what are the possible things? Opening a door, that is the action. Closing a door, that is action. Giving a horn, that is action. Running on a road, that is action. So you can develop these methods. Okay. So methods are for actions, for doing something. And attributes are just for identification and storing its values. So we have to analyze the objects, those we are going to use in our program. And we have to create its a concept first. What are the attributes and what are the functions? And these concepts we have to form in a class. We have to keep these things in a class. So class will have attributes and methods. Once you are having a class, you can create its object. Now how to do it, that we will learn in a programming. Create a class, and once class is ready, you can create object of a class. Now creation of object, writing code for a class varies programming languages to languages, and that we will learn when we are actually learning the programming language. Here I am trying to clear only concept. And once you are having your classes and objects, use them in a programming. So that's what object oriented programming is. I have tried to clear all the concepts to understand the concept of object and class. Let us have a small recap so that you can remember them. Understanding object. Why we need object? Because we are going to write applications for real world, and real world is full of object. Anything in real world is an object. We have to understand these objects with the help of attributes of the object. Every object has fixed set of properties and every object has its own functions or action or a work to be done. And finally, we have to understand what is the concept of object and what is the realization. So whatever in your brain is a concept, and in real world when it exists, it is an object. So everything in real world which has a fixed set of properties, fixed set of functions are object, and object has to be identified with the help of concept and realization. Now same thing we have to reflect in our programming. In programming, we have to first select objects that you want to use in your programs, real world objects, select the objects. Once you select the object, you have to analyze what are the properties, and accordingly you have to develop different types of variables in a class, private, protected or public. Once you define variables in a class, you have to develop code for its functionalities. What are the functions that object has to do? So in programming, we are calling it as a methods. We have to write code for different methods, or we can also call it as a member function of a class. And once you are having all those things, you have to use these classes, and you have to create objects for these classes, and you have to use them in your programming. So this is what the concept of object and object oriented programming. I hope all those concepts are clear to you, and you will definitely use them in your programming. Please give your comments below this video. What are the good things you learned from today's session? You can write in your own words what is an object in real world and what is an object in a programming. You can also write why we need to use programming, or you can think on it and you can tell me what are the possible benefits of using such technique in a programming. If you are creating your mindset like this, real world, analyze the object, it will be helpful for you to understand the world in better way, and that will be also useful for developing your logic in your programming. It is not only helping in a programming, but in your daily life you can use it to make your life more better. So with this, I wish you best luck and happy learning.